Hi, everybody. This is Sheila from Designs by Baby Moon. I am a Cuddle Ambassador for Shannon Fabrics, and I wanted to walk through a project with you. The project that we're going to be doing today is made from Luxe Cuddle, but the good thing is that you can use some of the scraps that you already have. We're going to be making a bat fluffy puff. This is a little keychain stuffy with a little clasp at the top that you can use to clip onto your backpack or your purse or your belt loop, anywhere where you need a tiny little bit of spookiness. So before we get started at the embroidery machine, let me tell you some of the things that you'll need to make this little fluffy puff. So the first thing that you're going to need is you're obviously going to need some Luxe Cuddle. I've got Luxe Cuddle here in Caviar. This is the Hide line. So it's called Luxe Cuddle Hide. And the color is Caviar. It's this gorgeous, deep, rich black with just a hint of a pattern going through it. It's soft and it's luxurious. And this is just a strip I had that I cut off from the bottom of one of the cuddle throws that I was making. So it's a great way to use up some of the scraps that you have. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some vinyl for the ears and the bat wings. I've got mine started right here, but this black patent vinyl that's very shiny, this is from My Punk Embroidery, and it's just called Black Patent. It's a great vinyl to use. It holds up really well, and you can even run it through the washing machine. So it's a great product to use. I've got Tearaway Stabilizer hooped in my hoop. A product that I really like using is Sulky's Tear Easy Stabilizer. It's really kind of soft and it tears away from the stitching easily. Now, these embroidery designs aren't super stitch intensive, so you don't need a stabilizer that's really heavy. You don't need a cutaway at all. In fact, we want to be able to remove most of the stabilizer at the end when we're done. So this Tear Easy Stabilizer is really great to use. I'm going to move this back over to the machine, and we're almost ready to get started. Our little bat fluffy puff, I'm just using 2 colors of thread. So I've got purple for some of the accents, like the ears and the veins on the wings, but then I'm going to be using black, and then I'll be using purple again for the mouth and the fangs. So 2 colors of thread is all you need. You can use black bobbin thread in the back, but you don't have to. This is what it looks like when you do. I have white bobbin thread in now. Again, it's the back. So really all you're going to see is the outlines on the back of the vinyl that you use. You won't see it anywhere else. The other thing that you're going to need are some safety eyes. Safety eyes are really fun and they give it a little bit of dimension. I put safety eyes in lots of different fluffy puffs. Here's the spider, and they come in all different colors. So the spider has green ones, this bat has gold ones, and who knows what color we'll use for this one. We'll just see what we feel like when we get there. You'll also need a little bitty bit of fold over elastic. Okay, this is 5-inch wide, 5/8 of an inch wide fold over elastic. And then you're going to need a small 1/2 inch, or it can be a D-ring, or it can be like a tinier lobster clasp, just something that's going to hold your elastic and give you a place to clip on. You could use a regular key ring. You don't have to use a lobster claw. I just find that these are kind of handy and they're fun. And if you get them, you can get them in all different finishes. You can get them in all different colors and even lots of different shapes if you look carefully. So those are all the ingredients we're going to need right now. At the end, we'll need some polyfill to stuff it with. But let's head over to the embroidery machine and let's start stitching. Okay, over here at my embroidery machine, I've got my stabilizer already hooped, as you can see, and I've already started stitching a little bit just to save us some time. And what I did is I stitched the placement lines onto the stabilizer, and then I covered those up with my piece of black vinyl. I've already started stitching the ears, and I've got purple thread loaded in the embroidery machine. So let's go ahead and run the purple lines for the veins. Then we're going to add another piece of embroidery vinyl to the back of the hoop so that it finishes that other side. You won't have a raw edge. But let's go ahead and run those stitches right now. Now, if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of tape right here to hold the vinyl down, but where this is kind of far away from the stitching area, so I'm not too worried about it. As we go, before we put the next color thread in and put the vinyl on the back, I am going to trim up any threads that I have on the front just to get them out of the way so that I'm not having to worry too much about them. This is a really quick stitch out. There's for these veins, and then for the outlines, there's only 3 minutes left of the stitching. The longest part was stitching the fill on the ears to give these little purple ears right here. Of course, you can do that in any color, and they would be 2 different colors. So you could use plain black, you could use white or silver, or pink, or whatever other color your back feels like being. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get my black thread ready, because now what I need to do is I need to remove the purple thread and replace it with black. This is entirely optional. You could use purple thread for the outlines as well. I'm just doing it so that my outlines match the background material. So let's switch the threads really quickly. And then we'll be ready to finish up these parts. So most of the fluffy puffs that I've designed have some parts, and the parts are stitched first, and we set those aside and then stitch the body of the fluffy puff. So there's 2 hoopings generally. There's the parts and then there's the body. And to the body, we're going to add the parts, which is why they need to be done first. So I'm going to take a piece of my black vinyl and put it on the back side of the hoop. Again, you could use some tape if you want to. I'm simply going to hold it to the back of the hoop. Once it starts stitching, it's going to catch quite easily with the thread. It'll hold it there. So I'm not too worried about it. But if you are worried about the placement and you want to make sure that your stitching is going to catch that back piece or that it's in the right position, you can use a little bit of tape to hold it back there. I'm just kind of double checking that it's in the right place for me. And that way my back is going to be completely covered with the vinyl. Okay, it looks like I can go ahead and start. And I'm going to run those outlines. We just have 2 minutes of stitching left here. Now I have another piece of stabilizer already ready to go so that when this is done stitching, we can take this out of the hoop, start some of the stitching for the bat. And then while we're doing that, we'll be cutting out these parts and setting them aside to use when it's time to on the bat. Okay, we're almost done stitching. We've done both ears and one of the wings, and we're just about to stitch the second wing, and those are all of the parts that are left on this bat. Another thing you could use for the backing, you could use craft felt or a wool felt. It just depends on what you have available. Or the same vinyl, or even something like blackboard vinyl. Okay, now the parts are all covered up on the back with the embroidery, and it is hard to see black on black thread there, but they're all ready to be cut out. So I'm going to do that right now. But first, I'm going to replace the file with the body file for the bat. So I'm looking for the bat body. There it is. I'm using the 5x5 hoop for my Tonomi machine. If you have a 4x4 hoop, you certainly can stitch both the parts and the body, each in their own hooping on with a 4x4 hoop. Let's get that hooped nicely. I love this stabilizer because it's really easy to use and it's nice and soft. So it'll be easy to tear away from the parts of our bat body. We don't really want to leave much stabilizer at all in the body. We just want to, we need it to work on to hold our material as we stitch. Now, if you're used to sewing with Cuddle, you know that we like to trim it carefully so that we don't have Cuddle dust everywhere. And you can go into the backing, and I'm kind of going in between the fibers and the backing and just snipping very carefully with my scissors, just so that I don't have fluff everywhere. I'm going slowly so that I'm not making a big mess. And I just want to make sure that I have two pieces that are about 5 inches by 5 inches, a little bit bigger than the Fluffy Puff placement stitch on the hoop. So I need the same size for both the front and the back. And I'm going to go ahead and run the placement stitch for the body of the Fluffy Puff in the middle of my hoop. Okay, there's the body all stitched up or the outline for him anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and place this piece of Luxe Cuddle hide in caviar over that circle with the little legs. And I'm going to go ahead and run a tack down stitch to hold it down to the hoop. That way I don't have to worry about it moving around or the fabric flipping up or anything. It's going to stay right there where I put it. And this placement line, this tack down line also will give us a little bit of extra help when we go to sew the Fluffy Puff up at the end, because it's stitched a little line here that we can kind of use as our guide for sewing him up. Okay, the next step that's going to run is a knockdown stitch that's going to be some placement circles so that we know where to put our safety eyes, and it's going to hold some of this fiber down so that when we stitch the mouth and the fangs, they'll be able to be seen under the fluff of the fabric. So this fluffy Luxe Cuddle can sometimes make your embroidery stitches sink in underneath. But what we're doing is we're putting a knockdown stitch under the mouth area. So where the mouth is going to stitch, there'll be the fibers will be flattened down, so we'll be able to see the mouth that we're stitching. So let's go ahead and stitch that. And while that's stitching, I'm going to be cutting out these parts. I'm just setting them aside because as soon as the eyes and the mouth are done stitching, we'll be adding our parts to the Fluffy Puff body. Okay, we're almost done with the eyes. There are the eyes all done. And now it's going to give us the knockdown stitches for the mouth area. And we're just going to let that stitch. Again, I'm using the same black thread that'll match the background material. And that way you don't really notice the thread, but you do see the effect that it is holding those fibers down so that we're going to be able to see the little eyes that we put on better. And you'll actually be able to notice the embroidery for the mouth and the fangs. If we didn't have these knockdown stitches on there, then those stitching areas for the mouth and the fangs, they would almost completely disappear in the fibers of the material. And so this just gives them a little bit of an extra chance to stand up and be noticed. Embroidery is all about those little details. So we're going to give the embroidery all the help that we can to help those little details stand out. Okay, I'm almost done cutting out this last wing. And then I'm going to switch the thread so that our mouth and the fangs for our little bat will be in purple. So let's go ahead and switch the thread and put our purple back in. There it is. We want to cut that out because the camera fell off, which is a thing that sometimes happens. Okay, this is a part we're going to need to edit. We're going to keep editing until we get it right. Right there. There we are. And let's go ahead and put this here. Here. Raise our needle up a bit. Okay. Now we can start stitching the mouth and the fangs. Now while that's stitching, I'm going to go ahead and get my little piece of fold-over elastic ready. This is a roll of fold-over elastic that I have, and it's got these cute little stars on it. You can get pattern or plain elastic. And I'm going to set this aside. You just need about 3 inches. I'm going to go ahead and loop my hardware through the fold-over elastic. Now it's almost done stitching, so we're almost ready to put this on. Okay, and now I've got my hardware through the little loop. Okay, so we're going to place this on the fluffy cup, on the placement line that it's going to stick out for us to help us see where to put all of our parts. Okay, our fangs and our teeth are done, and we're going to keep stitching and stitch out our placement lines for the wings, the ears, and the hardware tab. Okay, now while that's stitching, I'm going to trim some of these threads away. One more right there. There we go. That's for the ear, and then the last placement stitch for the other wing. Okay, now what the machine is going to do is it's going to tack down our wings and our ears that we're going to add. So I'm simply going to put a wing down underneath the presser foot so that my tab is sticking off the outside of the edge of the circle, and the stitching is going to run right here and catch the tab. That way, when we flip the fluffy puff right side out, this wing will be on the outside, but we need to put it facing inside first, just right under the presser foot right there. Now the machine's going to stop after each section, so you don't have to worry about getting them all placed all at one time. Okay, there's one wing. We're going to put one ear down right under the presser foot as we go. Okay, let's keep going. It's doing just fine there. Thought it was going to get caught, but it didn't. Okay, now we've got another ear to put on over here. I'm going to put it right under there. Again, the tab is sticking out toward the outside. It's going to tack down that ear for me. And that other wing is black, and it went somewhere that I can't see right now. There it is. And we're going to tack this wing on. I'll put it right there underneath the presser foot and let it start stitching. Kind of holding it over here just so it doesn't get caught or anything. Okay, now my machine was moving over to the front. So on this machine, my foot doesn't jump very high. So I wanted to make sure to raise my presser foot so that it didn't catch on any of these wings. Most other embroidery machines, the foot hops a little higher, so you shouldn't have that issue at all. Okay, now for the tab, I'm going to put the tab facing downwards. Now it's going to be hanging up like this on our fluffy puff when it's done, but in order for it to be up, we need to put it face down so that this part is hanging down over the face of the fluffy puff. So I'm going to put this area so that this is caught by the stitching. So the metal part is well out of the way of the stitching line that's going to go around. But so these raw edges are on the outside of the stitching area. And if you need to, you could use a little piece of tape to help hold this down. Okay, now our machine is ready to put the back on the fluffy puff. And the back is simply another piece of the Luxe Cuddle fabric that you're going to place face down over this stitched area. Let's see where my piece of black fabric went. Here it is. Okay, we're simply going to place this face down over the stitching that we've already done. And I'm going to watch this pretty closely just because I know my machine and I know that it might not want to go over all of these areas. And I want to make sure that it doesn't try to get caught or flip any of those up. So I'm going to watch it pretty carefully. I could use a bit of tape to hold it down. You do want to make sure that if you do use any tape, that it is safe for your embroidery machine and your needle to go through. So let's go ahead and run the final outline stitch. And this is just securing both sides of the fabric together. And we're going to change our needle because I did not put in the right size needle and I got caught there. Okay, once our fluffy puff is all done stitching, we're going to have this shape right here that I have already cut out from my hoop. And on the back side, I've peeled away a bunch of the stabilizer. When you turn it right side out, you'll know that you have these little indents that you're going to put the eyes on. That's not going to work right there. I got to fix that. And then I'll show you this. We're going to edit that out also. All right, let's change the needle. Let's see why I broke it. Because I've not been paying good attention today to what needle I'm supposed to have in there at any given moment. Okay, we're going back and forth and back and forth. Okay, we're going to rethread. I'm going to thread it manually because I can't see the hole. Oh my goodness, there it goes. Okay. And this is my reminder not to use black thread for embroidery projects for this process. Because it's just too hard to see. Okay, we've completed the stitching for the fluffy puffs, so we can remove the hoop from the machine, and this is what we have. our circle, the finishing line, this is where my needle broke, and our fluffy puff all ready to cut out. So I'm going to remove the stabilizer from the hoop, and I am going to cut this out. Now I know that cutting wax cuttle with scissors is generally not what we do, but for this part, it's really okay. I'm going to cut carefully, and then I'm immediately going to go with my my little tabletop vacuum cleaner and suck all this fuzz up, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, now here's our cutout, and I'm going to remove all of the stabilizer that I can from the fluffy puff. Okay, this is why I like the softer stabilizer, because it's very easy to remove. And it doesn't strain your stitching and compromise any of that work that we've already done with the embroidery machine. So once we get all of this, most of this peeled off, you don't have to get, too crazy with it. In fact, you could probably leave all this, but I'm, getting as much as I can just so I don't feel or hear any stabilizer when I flip it right side out. Okay, and now I can just reach in and I can grab those wings or that hardware, and I can simply turn it right side out. There's a wing. And here, let's see, here's another wing. There's an ear. Here's a piece of the hardware. Here we go. He's all coming out just fine. And here he is. Okay, so here's our little bat. And here's the opening. You can see his little fangs. And here's his eye placement areas. Now, they're very hard to see on camera. But we're simply going to put some fluffy puff eyes right here. And I'm just using 10 to 12 millimeter safety eyes. And I'm going to pick out 2 eyes and 2 washers for the back side. And I'm going to use these blue eyes, I think, for this one this time. I've got the 2 eyes, and I've got the 2 caps for the eyes. It's right here. Okay, and the way I'm going to insert these eyes is I'm going to flip my fluffy puff just so I can see those little eye placement holes. I'm not really going back in very much. I'm not turning it completely wrong side out again. And I'm just going to give the tiniest snip right through the stabilizer, right in the middle of that circle, so that I have a place to insert the eye. Now, we don't need a big snip, but the nice thing about the machine embroidered area around the circle is it's going to stop the material that is a knit material from running or fraying at all around that eye area. So now that we have those holes snipped there, I can push the fluffy puff eye through the hole, right through the middle of that area. Let's see. There it comes, and there's the peg that's come through, and I can simply push the safety lock onto it. Let's do this one over here on this side. See, it comes right through. And now I'm going to put that peg on, the safety washer on. And now all I have to do is stuff him with some polyfill. This is the blue-eyed bat. Here's our golden eye bat. 2 cute bats. And this is what they look like when they're done. And again, I've just stitched up right here along the curve that's left and filled in with, filled in with polyfill. If you'd like to, you can take a stiletto, which I didn't mention in the supplies that you might need, and kind of fluff up the fibers along the edge. And then you'll have a pretty much seamless stuffy that looks just so cute. And now he's ready to be hooked onto your backpack or your purse, and make everything spooky for this Halloween season. I hope that you found this project lots of fun. I really enjoy making these fluffy puffs. Go check out the Designs by Baby Moon website and see all the kinds of fluffy puffs that you can make, especially spiders and jack-o'-lanterns and these bats, all kinds of fun for all year round. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this quick tutorial on making a fluffy puff with Shannon Fabrics Luxe Cuddle Fabrics.